Live YouTube. And let me adjust the display capture so it doesn't make us look like monsters.
I used to do these kind of like Discord TED Talk things during COVID, and I gotta say one of the most stressful periods is before everything settles, and just the sheer like volume of people who like walk in and go, "Oh no," and then walk out. It's like that's the most grating part of it. It's just like, oh wow, there's so oh wait, oh wait, no. Oh, there's a shuffle. Okay, never mind. I'll just wait.
Once That's probably the way to do it. I always have always a certain magic. Uh, all right. We are live on YouTube. You ready to kick it off?
Yeah, absolutely.
Welcome to the Affray Update 0.14 Q&A session with Affray CEO Boman Modine. We are so excited to be here and discuss with you all the launch of the 0.14 update. So thank you for attending us on this Friday evening.
Thank you for that introduction, Isaac. Um, I would like to just start off with an anecdotal moment for just so everybody knows. Yeah, Isaac has joined us as kind of the forward-facing social media handling community element of our company. But me and Isaac actually go back like 20 years or something, ridiculous. And that is the most excited and happy I have ever heard him in 2 decades of being his friend. So I'm a little bit taken aback because I just know Isaac as just a different type of very more subdued, and so I'm kind of taken off guard. But yes, thank you, Isaac, and thank you everybody for coming. Um, it's a real pleasure to kind of be a little bit more front and center myself. I've only been CEO of Affray for I think a little bit over 2.5, three months, but I've been with Affray for about 13, 14 months. And I guess just a little bit of background on me, just so you guys have some context. I'm originally a filmmaker. I got my start working on the set of Dark Knight Rises, where I was involved with the VFX team of Double Negative. Um, but before that, I was just a guy graduating out of college and into the recession. So I had a very different idea as to what my life would be, and then it all sort of caught up. Similarly, with my relationship with Affray, uh, I was about to direct a feature. It was going to be a horror, kind of an eldritch horror film, which I won't bore you guys with, but it was basically, a what if scenario where if a guy who was a fall guy for in boxing found out that he was the last of a bloodline to kind of awaken a Cthulhu type monster. It was going to be really exciting. We were going to go to Croatia and shoot it. Very adjacent in a lot of ways to SCP, just in the fact that it was dealing with the modern age and kind of like that element of horror. And then COVID happened, so that drove me. You have to do something, right? And I got into animation and got acquainted with the Unreal Engine. And fortunately for me, a couple of years later, after working with a lot of really interesting studios that also got bigger during COVID because animation was the only thing that was people were able to work as. I helped co-create the a couple this animation studio that Games Workshop created, which was involved in a lot of the Warhammer 40K animated shows on their private platform. And while I was migrating, kind of trying to get back into live action, I got to do some motion capture for Affray, and the relationship kind of just grew from there. Just in time for a strike. And what started off as a consulting position just became more over time, especially as Affray was transitioning into kind of the iteration that you see now. So I'm sure that there'll be questions about it later, but to yeah, the process of going from being a consultant to being lucky enough to be to have the Trey Bishop and Alberni offer me a more important role in the leadership of the company is something that's very it's very touching, and it's something that I take really seriously. Uh, but if you want to see where my impression on the company really is, it's hopefully in the adaptation of a lot of new narrative elements that are coming into play, and you can see that in our YouTube channel with cinematics, the introduction of a couple, more Hollywood-oriented celebrities as voice actors. I'm trying to bring what I've learned in the entertainment industry on the movie and TV side of things, and trying to apply it to the team that we have here. So, and I think it's been pretty successful, and I think it'll continue to be really intriguing as we get the best of both worlds, which is an exciting horror game and a more cohesive plot line. Which before I was here, it was I think it was still in the incubation period. But yeah, so I guess that's one for just a primer on kind of who I am and what I've been doing here. Uh, Isaac, how this is I usually get to be in the audience and enjoy these. What's a good spot to uh, go to next?
Well, so I think the purpose of this is 0.14 was a big effort coming together. It is the largest content that has been dropped from Affray. What are your reflections on what was achieved and the community reaction? Just because I know that some people were very happy, there were some expectations that were not quite met. I guess, how would you like to address the overall reaction now that 0.14 is out into the wild?
Right. That's a great that's a great question. Um, Well, one of the biggest things that happened toward the end of last year was it's like is kind of a series of revelations, right? Which is one, the existing team needed there needed to be an extension of or excuse me, an expansion of the team. The first 2 years that Affray was coming off of the Kickstarter and everything, and this is my opinion, coming a little bit secondhand because I wasn't there for it. But those 2 years, I would say, was a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of really blue, what we call a blue sky approach to strategy. And blue sky meaning, the sky's the limit, right? You can, do everything, say everything, try everything. And I would say that in the creative process, that's the best time to be an artist, to be a developer, in that the only thing that you're bordered by is your own imagination. It when you couple that with the restrictive elements that come with everything, right? Budget, time, and capability. I think the end of last year was really a moment for the company to kind of reflect on itself and realize that, you know, the scope of the game had never really been defined. And so for the first 6 months that I was here, that's what we spent a lot of time doing, is identifying how are we going to create this cohesive experience. SCP is such an unusual creature to begin with. I myself have only been really, in contact with SCP for like 3 years. That's when I first read, my first articles, and got to know the community a little bit better, and then getting, more and more progressively involved. Um, you have to treat it differently, and then it's also a first person shooter, so that experience is so much more well, direct, right? Like the main way that you interact with the game is with a gun, right? Like that it's not like an RPG. In a lot of ways, an RPG might be easier to kind of grasp these kinds of big concepts. So those first 6 months we're very much trying to identify what to do next. And then toward the end of the year, we'd had really fantastic success with the updates. Um, but there were a couple things that were still, things that people on, especially through the Discord, which we try to pay attention to as much as possible. Um, how do we address things like the AI, right? Like the AI is not the opposition of the game is not smart enough. Uh, you need to bring those kinds of people on board, and we did. And you can't just onload somebody in a month. It takes time. It takes time for the team to adapt to new team members and things like that. And so that's why we decided to not do an update for about 6 months, or about 6 months. And what this latest update is our first real attempt to address all of these different things that we know the game needs. We know that the game needs a smarter AI, a more in-depth engagement with the SCP universe at large. That's one of the reasons why we added the GOC to the Antarctica location, and we need to figure out how to start going back and repairing some of the things that a game that's made with enthusiasm. I think a lot of people are going to not forgive, but just understand, right? When you have a game that's in its early period, and you're not a major studio, and you don't have primary funding and things like that, the community and your fan base will accept a certain degree of like work in progress. This latest update is a huge step forward in the process of making a better game, but but now that we've raised the bar to a certain degree, a lot of people now want more. Like, and they want more with a kind of the immediacy that you expect from a bigger game. I'm going to, I'll just bring up one thing that we know that we need next, which is a kind of save system, right, or a checkpoint system, because having played the game, uh, yeah, when you die at a crucial period and you have to start all over again, it's well, you're like Sisyphus, right? And you're pushing a boulder up the hill. Uh, so so that is one of the things that Trey Bishop and Alberni and the rest of the team are really focusing on, is how to address those elements next. And I'm really happy to say that we will have a roadmap, an updated roadmap that incorporates what our new team can do into it. uh, and hopefully that's something that well, the people who have come here, but probably the people that just read our updates and things like that, will understand that we are listening, and we are reciprocating with focusing our work on addressing those things that we know that the game needs, but in a way that is a little bit more proactive, so people don't think that it's going to take another 6 months for an update, and it's not. We've already got our we had a hot fix out. We'll get a patch out soon, and the next update will be uh, the in terms of the regularity that used to be every 2.5, 3.5 months. We're going to return to that type of ecosystem.
That was
It's
a
a super long way to answer that.
no,
That was a
that was
huge answer, right? I'm sorry.
that was a great overview. So I have a few questions here that I've been getting from the community. Just for all of you people here who are watching, this is the highest level authority you are going to get. So if you want to have your really big, high level burning questions, this is the best chance. I love doing the streams and events with other artists, but I know sometimes you get a little frustrated where it's like, is this SCP going to come in there? What crazy thing could be in? This is your best chance to ask those questions. So I'm going to prioritize those as much as I love the goofy questions, like will Chaos Emeralds be in the game? We're gonna prioritize a little bit more of the legit ones. So as a relatively small company, have you made profits, or when do you plan to profit? If you have, what have you invested that money in?
Oh wow. Okay. We're jumping right into finance. That's a super interesting question. I guess So I spent most of GDC, which recently happened. Now GDC was 2 months ago now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and out in San Francisco, and that was really one of the first times that the team had a chance to meet each other face to face. I mean, we're about 23 people that are regularly employed, and then probably about another 20 people that come on as specialists and consultants and if anybody's a baseball player, which I don't expect you to be, but a switch hitter, like we get people who come in and help out to that degree. And GDC really represented, a chance for us to really get to know each other. It was awesome. It was awesome. But I probably pitched twice every 90 minutes on average. And so if my responses seem a little bit pre-programmed, I apologize. It's just I've lived and breathed the financial situation for our company so often that it can kind of sound robotic. But by the way, just wanted to note, Tacit. That's awesome that you've named yourself Tacit. That is. I want to get back to that because that's super cool that I just picked up that someone's called themselves that, and that's really cool. Um, okay, so finances. The company doesn't have really any overhead. We are about 20 to 40 people, give or take, depending on what you want to count, of people living all over the world. We're in about 9 different time zones. There is no central office. I myself I'm on the west coast of the United States, and I spend some time in Canada, and I go back and forth a lot trying to piece together a lot of the necessary business things that need to happen for a company like Affray, and maybe in a lot of ways as importantly as an intellectual property like SCP. And that a lot of people need a face-to-face conversation in order to kind of see what's going on. Um, is the company financially in profit? It's a very difficult way to think about it like that. I would say that we are a self-sustaining business, which means we don't have any debt to an exterior investor or entity, or a bank or something like that. And that's really really hard to accomplish, especially for a first time business with on its first product. And so, but as a result, there's no real way to gauge, are we technically successful yet? We're in a gray area. Uh, the business world doesn't really respond to early access games in the way that it responds to finished products, right? Early access means, in a lot of to the layperson, it means like, oh, so you just made something and now people are buying it, and if people buy it, it's successful, right? That's not really the case because people have bought an aspect of something, but it's not at the price that it's going to be. Um, and when it does release, that's when the much larger marketplace is going to respond to the game. So, in a weird way, we exist in that gray area where we are self-sustaining, which is a certain level of success. We don't answer to anybody else. We don't have a studio that's dictating what we do next. But at the same time, we don't have our final product yet, and so we're trying to get there. That could change. One of the things that a lot of the games that we compare ourselves to, like Ready or Not or GTFO, uh, they're largely self-published, self-reliant games as well, and that might be where the business is going, where independent gaming is going, where we don't necessarily need that outside influence, but that outside influence might want us, so they might come and they might try to court us and get us interested in kind of giving them a piece of the company or whatever, of the game or whatever, and plugging us into a much bigger marketplace. Right now, I gave a talk at a high school a couple of months ago, and they didn't really care about the fact that I was a filmmaker. Once they found out that I was working on an SCP game, the entire back audience suddenly started paying attention to what I was saying, And that's a big indicator of how, SCP as a franchise is like this sleeping giant, and so I think a lot of other companies and studios and things like that, they might start realizing that, especially when, we during our update, we were on the front of Steam. We were, I think we averaged like 2 million, 2.5 million unique engagements. I think our high, don't quote me, but I think we were about 7,000 views on the restream put together by Blacksite. Like it's odd for a game to receive that kind of attention without some kind of kind of like larger influence from a bigger studio. And so for a little engine that could, we're doing pretty well.
So I hope you're enjoying all these very robust answers to these big, high-level
I
questions. But
can,
this
I
is
can,
the
yeah, here, I promise the next couple of questions, I'll just respond yes or no.
no, I'm certainly enjoying it. I hope the people are enjoying it. I think hearing this high level depth of like what Affray can build, is important and very enriching. So here's a little bit of an easier question. Um, are the baby 3199 SCPs going to be added, and will they be in Area 12? Bishop mentioned it might be a possibility. It's something people want. They want to shoot little baby chicken monsters. Will they be able to shoot baby chicken monsters?
So this is an interesting conflict of interest, right? So on the one hand, you've got the game director saying what he really wants, right? And then you've got the person who's responsible for selling it later, uh, thinking about it. I think here I'll answer it politically. Um, we really want to have more SCPs in the game for sure. And I recently just got through a document that is an internal document, but it's something for the whole team to take a look at and be like, okay, how do we pack this with more SCPs? But perhaps more. But I think what is a more immediately achievable goal is to have variety within SCPs, and that's something that we don't. I don't think you see it as much. It's certainly not a common aspect to wiki articles. Usually, you'll get one, the main monster, and then you'll get like kind of like something that is hinted at, but you don't really get to know too much about it. I would love to see the full gestation cycle of 3199. I think that would be really cool.
So
Kick the baby. Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just noticed I can like tap into people's comments right now, and this is wow. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
there's my 3199 stalking my apartment. Always gets very
Mm,
active whenever events happen. Just gets very talkative.
you're all good. No,
Uh,
Captain Crunch is a great. Yeah, it's a good bird.
awesome work, guys. My question is: are there any planning to develop an SCP facility guard campaign? Will we get to see Chaos Insurgency in the future?
Oh wow. Okay, so I think the best way to answer that is actually kind of already out there. When something that is probably, it's probably a little bit confusing, but we have, if you go to our Steam page, we have the game, right? But then we have this thing called the Omnicide Edition, and the Omnicide Edition is something that's a little bit of like let's call it like a homegrown Kickstarter thing, right? Like, or Patreon. If you want to support Affray Interactive, maybe we can engage with you by selling you this Omnicide edition. And the Omnicide edition has gone through a couple different descriptions, but the current one is that it's effectively a pre-sale for the first 3 DLCs that we're going to come out with, plus something on the aesthetic side. Um, that would be my answer, is that we absolutely 100% plan on releasing DLCs, which I can tell you expand the scope of the narrative, and there would be nothing better than the ability to play as I'll just use a simple term, the bad guys, right? There'd be I think that that would be a really, really a good investment of resources. But the game that we have is very much it's very much the Pearl Harbor in terms of like a timeline. It's the opening moves, it's the opening engagement in a much larger conflict. And because the way that the technology works that we have that we're using to make the game, there is a lot of opportunity to be able to use SCP-5K as to coin a term as the foundation for a larger franchise. I'm not saying sequel, but I am saying really, really robust DLCs.
So definitely a great way to well, all right, so this ties into another question that we got. One thing I think you will really be ramped up to answer. Hey, Affray, I'm incredibly new to the SCP universe. Will there be a story added to the campaign? The intro, for instance, shows that what looks to be the UN having a big meeting. So I know there's like a lot of big story ambitions, and I think one of the things that I thought added a lot of story ambience was the introduction of bark lines for the SCP security guards. But I think that the sad part of gaming is stories kind of like the thing that comes in last, unless there's like a lot of dialogue. But so I guess what would your reaction in terms of like when the narrative, when the characters, I know some of the characters, but I always play coy about them. But I guess if you had to guesstimate,
Sure.
what patch will we see some of them finally make their in-game debut?
Sure. I think that okay, so the disadvantage of an early access game is that, you get to see all the nuts and bolts as they get tried out, right? Like certain things are going to work, certain things aren't going to work. Some things will need to dial up to an 11, other things will need to mute, right? Like there's a lot there. And being part of the early access is almost like being part of a play test in a lot of ways. And so until we're ready to launch the game, we're in the direct process of working out what makes a good game, right? Like the mechanical element of a good game, and what gives a good experience. That is what we're focused on. The narrative element, there'll definitely be hints at, and uh, to put it simply, if you look at the last two cinematic style trailers, they have been the most, and even in the first one with the moon having an if you remember the moon having an explosion on it, all of those are hinting at the underlying narrative, but we can't offer that narrative in the best way possible, which would be an unbroken chain of storytelling. We can't give that in, or at least not all of it, in an early access state. That has to be the crown on the project, which is going to be fully realized with the launch of the game. I hope that answers the question.
So there you go. That will be the last finishing touch. Once all of the core gameplay is in there and all of the playable areas, that is when you will get the story. That's when all the juicy bits will be, and that makes sense. You wouldn't want to get it piecemeal, like getting like a half-built amusement park ride where this level has like a really cool scripted scene or dialogue, and then the rest is all kind of barren. So that makes sense. But yeah, that's the nature of early access, unfortunately. Um, Janice Soso asks, couple of questions. SCP-173, when? I think 173 is already in the game. When would we be seeing SCP-940 and SCP-610 replace zombies? Any updates on SCP-682?
Okay. Cool. That's definitely not making my dyslexia go to work. Okay, so let's talk about maybe zombies for a second. So I realize that 008 is not, well, I mean it's a zombie, right? Like we've had zombies since like the 50s, 60s, and in the iteration of like the undead and everything. And it's in it in previous talks like this and previous releases, I think that it has been it's just a fact that these elements can sometimes be placeholders. And obviously, Trey has come on and talked to you guys about how he imagines we're going to move forward and make everything ramp up everything, kind of what I was talking about earlier on. But something and this is the more perhaps this is the more conservative answer, is that we have a lot of things that we've built and we have a lot of things that we've invested in as a company. And to shed any of those things wholesale, I don't think that that is a smart, like maybe if we were a bigger company, right? Or if we, whatever. But I think that iterations of everything that we have in the game right now will exist in some form, uh, and will instead be treated with, again, I mentioned earlier on, we have a lot of new technical team members that can improve things like the level design and the artificial intelligence of a lot of the things that are working currently in the game. Giving them more time to cook is going to make something that is just as straightforward as a zombie running straight at you, is going to give an opportunity to maybe re-engage and rethink what that looks like and how that can make for a better experience. So I don't think anything is going to be just outright replaced. I wouldn't bank on that, but I think that everything's going to get uh, scarier and more threatening. Um, there's definitely going to be a process of rearranging where stuff happens and where things are going, um, and that will all serve for making a stronger narrative. Which to me, that and again, one of the reasons why I preface this talk with the fact that I come from film. I really I enjoy the filmic quality of storytelling, which is everything should be building to a kind of a cataclysm, right? Um, I think that with Trey and with Albie and with our leads, we can help string all of those different things together to make so there's not just a part that just sucks, right? Like, oh, I'm fighting zombies. Nah, just waste 3 clips of ammo in order to get through a part. It can be a more intense experience. It just needs a little bit more time to cook. Oh, the bird. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Hey, Captain Crunch. I've known Captain Crunch for 20 years too. Just so we're clear.
Yeah, very long time. Captain Crunch is a very long-lived bird. He went to college. He got an education. He flew around the dorm.
So Sir Balder. So I just want if if I can just engage with Sir Balderdash, that's a shame. Was really looking forward to zombie replacement. Let me be super clear. Uh, it's replacement is too strong of a word. There's going to be a diversity factor in the right now. Okay, right, like when you look at the zombies, there's what there's D class, there's dead security guards, and there's these really horrendously massacred looking people that have had that have had like surgery done on them, right, with all of those Z scars and stuff like that. Um so what I'm saying is that I think that we will have diversity in the way that they behave differently. It shouldn't just be like a mob that chases after you all the time, right? There will be something else to contend with, and as you can see in the most recent update, we're starting to get there. We're starting to introduce things like the door squid, and obviously there's the resonators. But there should be more, right? There should be more things, and perhaps as importantly, there should be an introduction to these things, and that's where we talk about the narrative, right? There should be a reason why you're starting to fight di- different guys, and why there's a sense of escalation as you continue to go further and further down into area 12.
So another very
Yeah.
oh, sorry. Finish your thought.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. No, no, go. No, go for it. Go for it. Sorry.
Question: Are you planning to add SCPs that are beneficial to the player, like SCP-500?
Uh, in a word, yes.
Ooh, that's very exciting. People have been wanting that biological gun SCP to let uh, Anders or
Well,
Dean
I
work their
won't go
wonder.
into I won't sure. I won't go into details because, that's not so many things can change from, from ideation to execution. And there's a lot of ideas that people have that there's a lot of ideas that I have that ultimately won't work. That's the reality of trying to build anything, right? Like you have this idea, everything makes sense, the resources are there, everything is all going in a direction. And then suddenly, for whatever reason, it doesn't fit, or it doesn't work, or there's not enough time, or whatever, right? So setting expectations is probably one of the most important aspects of my job. Now that's me talking when I engage with our with team members, leads, the director or the technical director, potential investors, potential partnerships. With we talk to a lot of other game companies now that we've gotten to where we are, and setting expectations is an extremely important reality. And if anything, is at its most important when talking to people who have bought the product that you've sold them. So I don't want to spend too much time speculating as to what we are going to put into the game, only that we will continue to put things into the game. We haven't hit the ceiling by any degree. We're going to continue figuring out how to maximize specifically the SCP experience, so that it's not just a zombie shooter, right? Like nobody wants that. And after the last update, you know that it's not going to be that.
So a very diplomatic answer. So in that line, we also have another question. Will you ever add SCP items we can use, like in Secret Lab?
Hmm. Uh, that you can use. There are plans to.
Ooh, all right.
It would be after having just said, like me personally, I don't think it's just going to be a zombie shooter game. You would have to back it up with something more exotic than a key card, right? Like it would have to be. So yes, there are plans to.
And in a little bit more of an ambitious question, Axmill asks, how many chapters or campaigns is planned to be added to the base game? What's the goal? Earlier, you mentioned having DLCs in the future. Any word on that? I think you kind of covered that they're like, I guess maybe what he's looking for is like, there are 3 DLCs. Like, what can they expect? Is it full chapters? Is it sort of like Axiom or, the Antarctic mini maps? I guess what is the scope that it's being considered discussed right now? And I guess how many acts or chapters are in the full game?
Right. So when it comes to the full game, again, I wouldn't want to. We will have a complete story from in regards to what happened at Area 12. I bring up Pearl Harbor for a reason. There will be a beginning, middle, and end of a fully realized narrative and plot to what it is that occurred at Area 12, with characters that have already been introduced by our writers onto the wiki. We have an excellent writing team that is as close as you can get to the horse's mouth when it comes to authorities within the SCP franchise, right? So there is that element there already, and that's going to happen for whatever reason. Grow in some areas and shrink in others, because that's the nature of development. But I'm very confident that when it comes to expanding that scope of the story, we are laying the groundwork so that we can have experiences like that, and you'll see that in the roadmap when it's published. Um, Now, of course, it's going to be covered in hints and redactions, because that's how you keep people interested, right? And that's how you keep people hopeful. But when you look at Antarctica and the introduction of the GOC, and I'm very lucky, because I was given the flexibility to add a lot of lore to the GOC, and our. It's important to also to know that Affray has this is our version of the SCP universe. We don't want to step on I think there's like 17 other games that are involved that have SCP involved with them one way or another. We're not declaring that this is the way that this is the way that the Chicken Man looks, acts, behaves, things like that. We're not doing that. This is very much our pocket universe and our interpretation of SCPs. Um, so when we look at Antarctica and we look at and we look at how the GOC is acting, I mean, from one person's perspective, in a story, the GOC is regarded as basically wizards, from our perspective and from our team's perspective, we're creating an esoteric type of strike force, which has all kinds of different details that you'll see, that make them, let's call it, human plus, right? That doesn't walk that walks a line, but doesn't walk into the magical realm where you're shooting fireballs out of your hands and stuff like that. So, oh, Albie's here. Ooh, okay, I gotta watch myself. Hey, Albie.
You can always poke in while
But
Al Barney has come.
Yeah, but but that I think Antarctica is a really, really good thing for the community that we have here on Discord and the people that are interested in Afray's take on the universe. Antarctica really is a good example of what can be. We're not going to be entirely weighted and isolated inside of Area 12. We're going to see what's going on in other places, and Antarctica is a good example. Along with and which, by the way, also gives us a kind of flexibility where we suddenly get to move away from the character that you are playing as is a member of the FBI, specifically the UIU division, and has a very specific experience, right? Kind of a fish out of water inside of a giant underground skyscraper, right? Uh, which is a weird double negative. But when we get out of Area 12, suddenly we're the Antarctica, and the GOC knows what the Foundation is and knows the potential threat of what the Foundation could be, and that's why the in the language that we use with the dialogue of that trailer, all of that is meant to hint at what's going to come, you know. So.
So, question from Tacit. I know I keep repeating this, but I'm really curious. How do you address criticism while also maintaining your original vision for the game? Um, well,
Oh, uh,
I was gonna like wax poetic that like the dream of 5K is to create the experience you always wanted, something with the that has the production values of like a high-end AAA game and fulfills that SCP fantasy, and that's always seems to be the ideal that Affray wants to achieve. But obviously, to execute it on a team that's across the globe with so many different people is always very difficult, and sometimes it doesn't quite meet the standards. So it's always a question of like achieving that goal, but also responding to the sort of technical criticisms. And I guess, what would you say the design philosophy is?
okay. So I think that before design, the design philosophy, right, which was laid down by the people that came, the team members that started Affray, the people that have made it continue, go through the years, and have gotten us to where we're at right now. Before that, there is an inherent relationship between early adopters of a game, or Kickstarter backers. There's a there's just a it's a kind of contract that forms between us where an expectation is set. We were talking about expectation earlier on, that you're going to deliver a good experience, right? That's the and by trade, you invest some of your money, $10, $15, things like that. maybe you get the Omnicide edition, with the promise, right? And that promise is vital to our ability to stay independent. If we did not have the early adopters and the Kickstarters that came before that, we could not be where we're at right now, which is spending basically 100% of our time, our of the workable hours in a week, trying to fulfill our part of the promise, right? We can only do that because of people like the people assembled here. And so when we get criticized, or when something doesn't deliver, it's part of that promise that makes us have to go back and take a look and see what we did, and make sure that we are being a good part. We're basically partners, right? Like we're business partners in a weird way. And if we are not paying attention to something, and obviously you can't address every single thing. It's 2024, and the internet is ripe with criticism. But if you but and so while we can't respond to everything, we can respond to things that we agree with, uh, and we can investigate the things that we don't agree with and see if there's something there. If enough people are saying we need a save system, or now, rather than maybe further along into the development, that's something that the leadership of this company comes together and we have that conversation. Because while we don't have an infinite supply of resources, we have we have a plan on how to execute on that. But if enough people have a problem with something, we need to show good faith and to respond in kind. So, to get into the philosophy of the game, though, we have three North Stars. Uh, the primary one is tactical gunplay. That is that at the end of the day, when you get into, when you decide what kind of game you're going to buy, an RTS, an RPG, a Civ game, whatever, we are a tactical gunplay game. And if that's our primary star, the one that orbits around that are, in a word, like as straightforward as possible, fighting monsters. You are in a game. You're not going up against the Russians invading Afghanistan. You're not fighting in a clandestine, secret war in Vietnam or whatever. Like, you are fighting against monsters. And then after that, and this is the element of the game that doesn't exist in its final, we're still in both the testing part, and we're holding back as much of it as possible for the release of the game, is the investigation. And that final star in our sky, that investigation is where the narrative comes in, but also unique game mechanics that you might not get in a traditional tactical shooter against zombies. There is a quality that we want to hold on to from the SCP universe, which is, it requires reading, right? Or it requires listening. It requires an element that a person who, you can either go up against every single monster armed to the teeth with grenades and like, you can go after the monsters in Area 12 like that. Or in the case of the people who have read the wiki, you'll know that perhaps a sentient statue made out of concrete is unable to be killed. Just make sure you keep an eye on him and he won't break your neck. It's going to take a certain level of research in order to know that sometimes the uphill battle is not the smartest battle.
Well said.
Uh,
So
that, hold up though. I just want to really quickly. Uh, Tan Masterous Me. I want to just gun them down. Now, I don't know if you're responding directly to me, but I feel a kinship to that feeling. I play video games in order to conceptualize all of the problems in my life into people I can digitally kill, right? And so when I turn on a video game, I just want to just like I want to kill the shit out of whatever's in front of me with a gun. Um, I realize now, only after saying that, how violent that might sound. But that's what video games are for. That's what I want to feel. And so to just thank you, Benny. But just to but that is a core reason why people play video games, is to get out that, to experience, just, I want to fight a bunch of security guards and lay waste to them. Um, that is something that's very important to Trey Bishop, our director. That quality of an experience is also there. So there shouldn't just always be one way to solve a problem. You shouldn't have to just solve a puzzle every single time in order to get past a certain point. There should be an element where you can go the hard way and just shoot your way to victory. And there should be you can sneak around the back door and solve the problem without using only your knife. So there, I think something that we want to. Oh, and he's here now. I don't know if he's been here the whole time, but hi, Bishop. Um, but that's something that's important for that's something for a game company to be able to do in a game like this, right? To go back to those pillars that we were talking about, uh, to be able to solve a problem in multiple ways is tactical gunplay, right? You can either use a sniper rifle to kill the guy in the machine gun nest, or you can just charge through cover and see how good you do, which is me. I'm that guy. I'm that guy on the team. So
Oh, Trey, if you want to be
uh,
invited in, let me know. I think we can easily invite you to speak. Just let me know. Same goes for any other Affray team member. Just message me, and I'd be happy to invite you on the stage. But here is a really interesting question that I'm sure will get your film producer brain a buzzing. Will you ever plan on adding a civilian campaign where you play a civilian during the beginning of the story?
I think that, when it comes to, so what's great is that once we have a timeline in place, right? And our timeline is extensive. It goes far beyond just, the 24 hours that we're in Area 12. Uh, it goes internally, and as I've built a timeline of events, I go all the way back to the 1970s, and it goes through the 70s all the way up to 2020, which is when our game takes place. And what that allows me to do is to conceptualize what was everybody doing, right? Before uh, I said I wouldn't talk about Star
Oh
Wars,
no, no,
but it's
no.
the easy. Yeah, yeah. This is what you get for intruding upon my TED talk. Um, when you see the opening, when you see the opening scroll in New Hope, you find out that, like, the rebel, it's right there in black and white. The Rebel Alliance has just had their first great victory, right? Now, what's great about that, and what all stories do in Lord of the Rings, it's Sauron got put down, by the last alliance of humans and elves. Every epic has, like, there was the before the moment that you're experiencing right now. Halo, if you want to go back to Combat Evolved, you are running away from the fall of Reach. All of these things add a certain level of meaning and importance on everything that's happening in the story that you're experiencing now. So when we engage with this story that we're currently working on right now, SCP-5K, the level of iteration from having the fabric of a really, really strong story um, allows us to then apply it to other experiences. So, for example, while we are a member of the UIU and we're finding our way through Area 12, that is one experience, and that experience is contained in our game right now. However, it might be interesting through let's say a podcast or a comic book or an audio story or audio drama, things like that, to know what else is happening in the facility at that time. Because to the person who bought the game, one version of the story, but through Affray's investment in story development, for example, you will be able to potentially experience that same story multiple times. And if there's an interest there, and this is why it's great to be an independent company that's agile the way that we are. If there's enough people that want to experience what it's like being, and I don't know why, but let's say you want to be a scientist, someone who's not militarily trained, wandering the hallways of one of the most difficult places in the world, being stalked by monsters that can, like do things like, melt through walls and stuff like that. If you want to experience what it's like to be that scientist, it might be worth our investment to hear from you, to know that there's a market there. And it's like, okay, well, let's see what the possibilities are, to play as a as a lab coat.
Ooh, so there is a possibility, there is wiggle room, but you gotta let the voices be heard. You gotta tell them that you want to see that horror story of that poor little kid who's just watching television, and then it blinks out, and then 173 is through the window. Oh my God, and it's playable. But will that be possible? That is in your hands. So the best way to make sure that happens, buy an Affray hoodie from the Affray store right now. They all go right to the developer. That is the best way to make sure that we have the funds to potentially make that vision a reality. There is flexibility, but time is the ultimate enemy, as said in the Fallout TV show. And what is the best way to battle time? It is money, sadly. It is money, which you can see in this wonderful shirt that I'm wearing.
You know, that's a shameless plug that I will endorse. You know what? Maybe we can do, and I just had this idea. If you want to play as a scientist, maybe we can sell on our merch store lab coats. And if lab coats beat out, I don't know, hoodies, then maybe, that's terrible.
That is the most
Man,
cynical.
maybe it's more honest then.
You have like an update of merch, and it's like three paths. Do you want the civilian shirt? Do you want the lab coat shirt? Do you want the D class shirt? Which actually, that brings up another question: will you get to play D class in a chapter or two?
Again, speculation is like the is puts you on the road of potential disappointment. Here, I'll respond back personally. I really hope that we can play as scientists. I definitely want to be a D class, because I'm making a personal investment to, if everybody has seen Trey's custom D class cosplay costume. I too would like one of those. So I would like no more than to play as D class. And that enthusiasm, because of the people that we are at a company making a game, that enthusiasm will inevitably influence other people on the team to be like, yeah, maybe we should play as D class. But I would absolutely love to play as D class. So I hope that can answer that question.
There you go. There is a desire from development to potentially have the D class as a playable thing, but we will have to wait and see if that comes into a fruition. Couple of other questions from this is from a little bit of an older question. Will SCP-173C, the other peanut variant, be in the game? When? Question mark. And SCP-840 drain flesh pipe SCP, when? And is there any new info on SCP-682 other than no comment? And will SCP-939 many voices be in SCP-5K?
Do you mind if
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, yeah.
because we get a lot of these questions all the time, and it's because there's thousands of SCPs and all kinds of cool stories and factions to include in the game, and everyone's excited about it. The best answer I can give you is that we have a finalized version of our new roadmap that we were hoping to put out this week. It looks like we're going to post it at the beginning of next week, I think, if that's correct. Bowman, you can tell me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
But that will give you guys a clear view, or a clearer view, of what we do have planned, without spoiling everything. And maybe that will answer some of your questions. So I would look forward to that. But there will also be things on there that won't be revealed. But hopefully that'll give you an idea of like what we are planning.
And so, one thing I think we've talked about before is maybe trying to have inviting viewers in to ask questions live. Would we like to give that a try? Maybe give 2 minutes per person, or 1 to 2 minutes per person.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm game for that. I could
eh,
probably stick around for like one question, and then I'm gonna have to go. But
all right. So.
Well, yeah. Here, if anybody has a question for Trey, maybe he can go first so that he can then get to where he's going.
All right. So anyone who really wants to talk to Trey, this is your very limited period of time to do it. Put in a request. I see the request to speak. So far, no one has requested to speak. But put in a request, and we will put you through. You have a very limited amount of time to do this. So I want to see you on the chat. Put in a request to speak. To do that, you just have to go down to the bottom and then click the thing where you raise your hand, and then I will see it here. But you have to do that. But until I see a request, and as long as it's going to be shy, we will move on to. Did someone get in there? All right, Sir Boulder Dash. What is your question?
Are blinking mechanics going to be implemented for 173, or not really?
No. The reason they're not is because I believe the team, and this was before I actually came here, they looked into the blinking mechanics that we're familiar with from Containment Breach, dealing with the original Peanut. But I think because it's a tactical game, it became something that was too disruptive to the core mechanic of the game, which is using gunplay. And because it's something that is relied on, or would rely on like your vision to be affected, and you're not dealing solely with 173 throughout the entire thing, and there's other anomalies to deal with. And using guns, it just became something that didn't feel like it added. It felt like it kind of detracted from the experience. That's my understanding of the conclusion everyone came to when they looked into that. So it probably will not be.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for coming and asking your question, Sir Boulder Dash. Next, we will have a very loyal member of the Discord, Callan Stuff.
All right. Hello.
Hello.
So I wanted to ask, wait, I I immediately forgot what I was gonna ask. Okay, how will saving be implemented? Because I personally like having the like fear of restarting just a bit. But personally, for chapter 1 and chapter 3, it feels like it's definitely a bit too long of a while to restart and play all the way through again.
Yeah.
But I do like replaying things.
Do you want me to answer this, Boman, or do you want to do it?
Yeah, no, you're no, yeah. I want to say something to him after that.
Okay. So saving and checkpoints and all this is something that we've been working on and trying to find a good solution for a while. Barney's been doing tons of research and trying to find like the best solution on top of all the other tasks he has. And what we've come up with is sort of this hybrid system that uses checkpoints and save data. We're actually putting together information to share with you guys before we implement something with it to explain how we're handling it in more detail. But the thing you're talking about is not removing the fear element that you get from like the sort of the consequence of dying, right? That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So that's why we've actually added or we broke up the initial map into, it's not the only reason, but it's one of the reasons we broke the map up into smaller chunks. And actually some of the chunks are unbalanced still because it's hard to just go in there and just remove areas because it affects everything that exists, all the gizmos and the electronics and everything that are set up in the levels. So there's actually some areas that we're still needing to rearrange or remove or replace or rework, and it's sort of like this long process. So chapter 3 is really long because it's not broken up enough yet with the chapters the way we'd like, but that's something that the additional final product of our checkpoints will solve. But doing that's to answer your question. We want to try to have checkpoints that exist at certain points that break up the chapters even further, and they're like places where the player will sort of come back to, and they're points of no return, so that you can't just you'll never be able to just save at any frozen point in time and then load back up and be right there in that exact same spot with the same dead bodies around you. It won't be like that. It'll still feel kind of session based in a way, but you'll still have to go like back to a certain point and still fight things again. But it just won't be as egregious as it is now.
So I hope that answers your question. We are past the 2 minutes. Trey, how much more time do you have?
I'm good. I do want to hear what Boman was going to say about it though, because I think he had something.
Well, look, this kind of bites to the core of what a lot of conversations have recently been had at Affray, and it really comes down to two different, kind of almost a bicameral approach to gaming, right? Which is like there's the one aspect which is you're playing a game, you should feel extremes in emotion, right? Like you should feel frustration at times, and you should feel fear and excitement and exhilaration and things like that. And then there's the other side of it, which is there should be an escape button or an eject, right? And when it comes to things like saving, right? Saving is a blanket a little bit, because it's like you just spent 2 hours fighting your way through everything that the devs could throw at you, and you finally die, and you have to start over from the beginning of that 2 hour odyssey, right? And on the to one person, that's excellent, because that's cause and effect and choices, right? And then the other, it's repetition, and repetition can be the death of entertainment. And so, Trey and the team finding the balance between the two is something that it's something that it's not as easy as just saying yes, right? Like the execution of it is really important, and I just want to take a moment to say that, Bishop.
Oh, well, thank you. And as I leave, I do want to just let everyone know that you really owe a lot of thanks to the stuff that you never see this, you never hear about it. It's never really praised out in the open. Usually artists and 3D people and the directors and the game designers, they get a lot of credit, but people like Boman and Gabriel Myers and Evelyn and Justine, all of our producers, they do a lot of stuff in the back end that helps us have the freedom to focus on these things, which is difficult to do because we're an indie studio, so everyone's kind of sharing the load in a way. And more recently, our producers have been pushing really, really hard to give us more and more of the tools and the time that we need to make this game as good as we want it to be, because we all love this project and we want it to succeed. So I just want everyone to know that, and thank you, Boman, for all the work you do. It sounds like you guys are going to have a good stream. I don't know how much longer it's going to go on, but thanks for letting me sort of crash the party a bit. I've got to go to a birthday party, but you guys have a good one, and I'll talk to you later.
Thank you,
Trey,
yeah,
before you head off, SCP-989 Derpy Dog, when?
I've never even heard of that one, so
I didn't even know you had a dog. So I don't know.
Technically don't.
Sure.
I'm just watching this dog for like the weekend.
Oh, you have a dog.
It's technically not your dog. That might be the most frightening thing said on this stream.
All right. Well, I don't want to be an accomplice, so goodbye.
Yeah,
have a good one.
Bye.
Thank you for popping in. Next, we have DCR coming in. Coming in hot. Can't wait to hear your question.
Yeah.
And
Might have taken too long.
yeah. Oh, wait. There we go. DCR, you are on the air. What is your question?
You're muted. Just
yeah.
might take a moment to.
Are you unable to mute? Well,
Here, we can go back.
Yeah.
I know Paige has had their hand up for a while.
Okay, we can DCR, if you figure out your technical issue, you're more than welcome to come back. Paige, thank you for coming to this session. What is your question?
I was just wondering if there was ever any talk about like accessibility features like being able to use your mouse, not your mouse, being able to use your keyboard for like selecting menu stuff with tab or whatever?
Um, Accessibility is something that will definitely be something that we try to tackle over the course of the next couple of updates. But to get specific, I can't touch on that. But that would be an excellent question that maybe Isaac we can log and talk about with Alberny. And maybe do another one of these talks because accessibility is super important. And touches on some of our longer term development plans. I hate to give a vague answer, but yes, that's something we absolutely want to address.
I also do have another question, if that's okay with you guys.
Sure. You
Oh,
got
sorry,
enough
yeah.
time.
Sorry for cutting you off.
Yeah, absolutely. Give us your other question, and I'd also recommend if you had like a top 3 accessibility issue things you'd like to see. Would love to hear them.
All right. So, would you like me to say the top 3 right now, or the go on?
Start with your other question, and then you can end with
yeah.
the top 3.
All right. Also, will there be a difficulty slider for the AI?
Okay, so this is one of those topics that has recently come up. I really enjoy how hard the security guards the security guards are, um, uh, and and there is a fluctuating opinion in regards to that. Uh, I can see the middle ground likely being. To have a more diversity of the types of artificial intelligence that you engage with, so that it's not a constant, right? In either direction, that uh, there are different that there'll be variety basically when you go up against like an entire squad of security guards shouldn't all be able to headshot you. That's probably too brutal. So I would say that that's a discussion that's happening right now to see how we can execute on it. Does that answer the question,
Yes.
Paige?
Yeah, that does. And my
Yeah.
my top 3 like accessibility thing, I'd say
No,
is
okay.
like easy moving through like the menu and stuff through like keyboard. Like, sorry,
So
through
No,
like
I'm writing this down. So yeah.
So easy moving
buttons
through the
on your buttons on
easy
your keyboard.
moving for the keyboard. That seems like that would probably be the most easy to implement. I guess would like color blind mode something else you'd be looking for?
Yeah, colorblind mode would be a neat thing. I looked at some of the accessibility things on there, and it was like red and green something. Or
Yeah,
I'm
so
thinking of the
yeah, no. So I can definitely say that improving the keyboard input is going to be that will absolutely happen. When it's going to happen, I'm not sure. We hadn't had an update for 6 months, and so we have a lot of feedback that we're addressing and prioritizing. But I can definitely say that we will have keyboard input in the menus, as well as just overall use improvements, let's call it. And then when it comes to the difficulty setting, yeah, it's an eventuality. When it's going to happen, I would say we would probably have a better understanding. Give it this month where we're intaking a lot of the I guess the criticisms, right? And seeing how best we can use to what we can do with what we have uh, to address those elements as fast as possible. But I've taken a note so that's something we can definitely put out there. Thank you, Paige.
There was also one more
One more. Okay.
accessibility.
Yeah.
So I was also thinking of like for people who have issues with I don't know if this counts as accessibility, but like seeing when you take damage, because it's kind of hard for
Okay.
me to pay attention to the game and see my damage at the same time.
No, 100%. So the way that you take damage is going to absolutely be addressed. And that won't just be a visual thing, it'll also be an audio thing so that there's more of there's more of an experience when you're getting shot, because that actually, I think for something like when you get your neck broken from behind, probably shouldn't have much of a warning effect. But definitely when you're moving down a hallway, it can absolutely be difficult to know when you're taking damage at all. And the lethality of so many of the things in the game is so extreme that it can almost take you out of the experience sometimes. And that part right there, that is 100% being worked on.
Thank you.
So
Thank you, Paige.
Yep, thank you for your questions. Moving you back to the audience. Next, we have Flaco Cats. What kind of cat-related? Is this a Josie fan in waiting? Flaco Cats, you have the stage. Let's hear what you got to say.
So I'm actually asking my question for somebody who doesn't have a mic because I don't have one. But Tackett was asking, without spoilers, are you planning on creating or writing more articles for the SCP Wiki, like you did with 7528 and 7566, or those are the only ones?
That's a great question. Okay, so we exist in a place where there are no other examples that another company that at least that I've been made aware of, especially with my contact with the administrators over on the wiki, that is like Affray. So Affray, typically what happens is that with other SCP games is that there's a reservoir of SCPs that are then inspiration is taken from, and then they move over into the game, right? That's the way that it's always been. That's the way that it's been for all multimedia involving the SCP property. We're in this place where we were inspired by several SCPs initially to create the game, but then through relationships with influential writers on the wiki, the ideas that took place at Affray in some ways kind of prematurely went back into the wiki and became canon before the game had implemented them. The door squid is a perfect example. So this back and forth, it gets confusing a little bit because it creates a creative kind of loophole where it's like, well, what is influencing the other, and back and so on and so forth. So what we're doing right now is that we don't want to interfere with the experience of the wiki. A lot of the people that have purchased our game are also people that have less connection to the wiki, right? They're more into the tactical shooter horror element. The specificities of what they're shooting is not something that they need in order to enjoy the game. But for the people who love SCP, I mean, I've seen the comments and I've engaged with the audience. It can be there's a certain level of exhilaration when you come across something that you've only ever read about. But because we don't want to mess with ultimately what becomes everybody's property, right? Like another game could adopt the door squid. Even though the door squid was invented by Affray, it is given to the rest of the wiki for anybody to come and take it and do something with it, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to create like a very short, think of it as like a wall where the Affray universe will be a lot more straightforward as to what is happening in the game and the experience that you're having with the SCPs that we're using and our interpretation of the SCPs. And that will be an experience that links back to the wiki so that if you want to, you can go, and anybody that's done this, do the deep dive and read the short stories and the spin-off stories and the compilations and everything that's there. But we will be able to control our narrative of what's going on over here. I'm going to impart one opinion that I have. For me, the thing that I don't know how to wrap my head around as somebody who's involved in the creation of the narrative for our game, I cannot rationalize the blackout cow. And if you don't know what the blackout cow is, it's a carnivorous cow that eats people and poops out other people. And that is on the wiki, that thing is in Area 12. I don't know what to do with that information entirely. And it gives me kind of a narrative speed bump because I have to wrap my head around that, which then makes it it causes a cascading effect, right? So the best thing that we've been able to work out with the people that we work with that are already on the wiki, what we plan on doing is just creating almost like an Affray reality, so that you can experience a full understanding of what's going on in the game and the style of the wiki, and then we protect the original documents and the original articles that are here. We will likely invent more, and a really good example of what we're doing used to be called the Psi program. That is evolving into something that now will make a lot more sense and will have a lot more narrative connected to it and a lot more documents and wiki style articles. But because that is not inherently the wiki, it will exist in the Affray website, if that makes sense. Flock of cats.
Yeah, I'd say that makes sense to me at least.
Sure, I guess tacit, if that makes sense to you. I know you don't have a mic, so did that answer the question that Flocko Cats asked for you? Maybe they're not there. Okay.
we will see. Hopefully, that will. But I think it kind of like builds of like obviously, 5K is the lifeblood of Affray. Someone else asked earlier, are there other SCP games in development? There is one that's officially announced, Josie. There are other tentative projects, but the to build like a larger interconnected universe, it's the best compromise to, one, give the artists working at Affray flexibility to bend things and kind of build things, while also respecting the original source material. So thank you so much
Yes.
for. Sorry, Bowen.
No, all good, Isaac. Thank you.
So thank you for your question, Flock of Cats. I'm moving you back to the audience, and we are getting someone else in here. Next we have Wicked.
Hi, Wicked.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Going well.
All right, so first off, I'd like to say that I'm still relatively new. I really love the atmosphere and the experience that you guys have curated and created, and I really enjoy the game. My question is kind of twofold. So first, being this game at its core as a tactical shooter, how do you guys feel about adopting mechanics like free looking? I think that would be really interesting with like 173, and then also maybe things like proning to like hold angles and for like area denial and stuff like that. I kind of just, I mean, this is a small question. I just kind of wanted to see what you guys' thoughts were on that. So yeah.
Yeah, so you've seen that in the update that we have things like vaulting, right?
Right, yeah, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, so and going through a refinement right now. We are absolutely going to explore more things that the individual player can do with the character moving forward. What we, so I do some of the mocapping myself. Like I put on the Movella suit and dance around my living room. Uh, uh, I know that and then of course we partner with people who can actually move their bodies correctly and in a healthy way. It's not just me. But going prone, being able to do more and give you more mobility is something that I think that is an important factor, and I think it starts with we're very much experimenting with vaulting to see what else that we can do, and I think that I personally think that going prone to especially to be able to steady a shot or hold a position or make yourself a smaller target, I think that would be a good progression. Um, yeah, yeah. More elements like that, it can only make a game better.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Wicked.
Yep. Thank you for asking a question, and I hope you have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Next up, we have
that-
Soloer. Soloer, you are on the stage. What do you have to ask?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear
Yep.
you.
Hey, how's it going, Solower?
Great. All right, I have 2 questions in regards to SCP-610.
Okay.
Now, SCP-610, each instance is described to be very unique from one another. Like, if there's like a horde of them chasing you, and they were all identical clones, it would look quite a bit odd. So, how do you deal with that in development?
How did you? Okay, well, so there's a balance, right? There's a certain amount of resources that we can extend to making every character unique, and we could do the zombies are a good example. At one point, all the zombies looked the same, and then the zombies started looking a little bit different as more models came into.
Yes.
Okay, cool. We just lost Isaac, so I just want to make sure.
My accident. I'm coming back there.
So, how to deal with that when it comes to development? It's interesting because I think that is the most that's the most obvious wall of managing resources. Like I wish that every single character type could be unique, right? But at some point that would make a game that's too massive, right? And so when it comes to things like a in this case like 610, there is a process of I don't know what to call it. Like maybe randomization is the best way to answer, so that you're taking the same pieces and rearranging them slightly, so it isn't just a clone of the last guy coming at you. Albie has actually just messaged me back. I think this is the answer for the question here. Just he says, we have some techniques like shape keys and additional elements that add variation. Can top of the couple of mesh variants. Yeah. So yes. So basically, a much more substantial answer than I'm giving, but what you do is that you build your variety, and then you rearrange them in different ways so that you don't balloon into this huge into a huge massive project that would cause all different kinds of additional problems. But ultimately, yeah, you have to there's a certain threshold that you have to accept, that there are just going to be in a game, right? There is going to be a certain level of repetition, and I think that the way that you can accomplish getting over that hurdle is the other elements that come into play in the creation of a game, which is things like lighting, right? Like if we were fighting 610 out in the open on an Arizona desert day, and you could see everything, and as they're coming at you and you're shooting at them, you start seeing details, because that's just how the human eye works. It might break immersion, right? So one of the elements of designing really any visual medium is to be able to make a more interesting but limited scope of what you can see. So shadows, contrast, giving you reasons to move in an environment. If somebody's taking a shot at you and you don't get out of the way, you go down. Other elements come into play in order to help with any kind of limitation that comes with the expression of a character model or type. And that's something to keep in mind. There's not, in my opinion at least, there's not one aspect that can save or pull off something in a game. It's 10 or 15 different factors all working together at the same time in order to create an experience, right? So when it comes, I mean, we're basically talking about aesthetics, right? If something like 610, which is supposed to have an amalgamation of all these different elements, then even just moving it around just a little bit is going to is going to feel good when you're going up against them, and it's going to be even better if you can't see all of them, because then you're constantly kind of tracking those changes every time you engage with something. So that's
Awesome.
how we do it. Yeah, no problem. I think Isaac is having technical difficulties.
Oh no,
So I'm going to.
I'm back here. Do you see me?
Oh, okay, there's just two boxes infinitely looping together.
Oh, like it seems my camera's there. I made the mistake of like clicking the events tab because I saw a red light and I was like, oh, something important there going on. But is everyone else? Can everyone else see me? There we go. I refreshed my camera.
Oh, okay. No, two boxes dueling each other, but that's okay. That's all right. Who's next? I guess I can invite them up. If
next, let's have Sir Boulder Dash. Seems like he's wants to try again. I assume he's got his microphone sorted out. Sir Boulder Dash, are you up in there and running?
I, in fact, am. Yeah.
Hi.
So, I know this is kind of a long shot, but are there any sort of vehicles planned for the game, like running away from a giant horde in a buggy or something?
Gosh, I hope so. That'd be really cool.
Forklift
like
certified. The meme lives.
I okay, so there's a balance between fighting monsters all the time and then fighting other human beings, right? And human beings will eventually bring a tank to a gunfight. So I really hope that we can fight a tank. I hope that answers the question.
Or like, just like being in a helicopter and you know how there's the machine gun out the side? Like,
yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, dude, I'm right there with you. I really, really, really hope so. It's all about scope, right? And if we can accomplish certain tasks, then that ends up being a really cool, nice to have. But I'll tell you one thing: the way that we have set up our roadmap is that once we accomplish, maybe this is a good time to say, we're not like going anywhere, right? Like we plan on releasing this game in a 1.0, and we've already made the promise. So there's no smoke and mirrors as to the fact that we will have DLC content, right? That DLC content, because of the strength of not just the team but the original technical element that's there in the form of the game, the Affray core, which Albie and his team continue to improve upon, but he's the architect of. We have a really, really just kind of a once in a blue moon, once in a lifetime opportunity to be able to continue to expand what this game can be, right? I really like the idea, for example, that you are in a helicopter, right? Because there's like, how else could you see like the scope of some of the SCPs that are Godzilla sized, right? Does that exist right now in an Area 12 environment where we're confined and we're underground and everything? Probably not. But because we have these DLC opportunities where we will be able to get outside of Area 12, then all of the other things that are outside of Area 12, I think I think they get put in the realm of possibility. And so I really hope so. And the enthusiasm of that exists on the team we'll see if we can. It's weird, right? Because I'm also the person who's kind of in charge of the budget, right? Like obviously I answer to a kind of council, but I would definitely propose being inside of a helicopter laying waste with some kind of minigun situation. Like I would really love that. And that's my answer.
That's always
Okay,
everyone's
cool.
guilty pleasure in any video game. The section where you get in the turret and then you just kind of feel
I
like you're on the battlefield.
I'm probably older than most people in the audience, but like the thing that did it for me was Predator, and just the idea of like a portable minigun. I don't know. Yes. Thank you, Sir Balderdash.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I'll move you to the
Before
audience,
we
and then
before we bring in the
okay.
next person, DCR, who was trying to go in a minute ago, but unfortunately was not able to talk because of technical issues, did post his question. Since my mic is broken, my question is in relation to Kyle's SCPs 2761, 754, and 5031. What are the potential for them to appear, like the SCP 5031 as a cafeteria section, or 745 as a DLC road game mode? Did you justice for the banana monster?
Yeah, right. Like, huh. I guess the best way to respond to that is by just saying, in time, we could have a DLC for every SCP that exists with time. I mean, there's no reason why every single SCP that we enjoy reading about, there's no reason why that would ever, any of them would be really off the table. Especially when you look at it through the lens of our creators and our devs, our interpretation of the things that are on the wiki, and the responses that we get from people like yourself. I don't think anything would ever really be off the table. At the same time, there are like what 7,000. We're up to 7K, right? Seven.
No, 8,000.
Somebody knows better.
8,000.
Or
Remember?
8,000. Excuse me. Yeah, we just passed 8K. Yeah. So like yeah. Maybe we need to come up with a way to have some kind of voting system once we get past the very real prospect of a 1.0, right? Like once we ring that bell, maybe that's when we could start implementing some kind of voting system. I don't know. That's my speculation. That's not a confirmation.
So there you go. Meme it into existence. Keep on yelling, scream for justice. I thought Kyle did a fantastic stream there. It was one of my favorite things to host, him just making cool monsters. So if you keep on memeing it, maybe it could become a reality. Be obnoxious, create fan art, demand merchandise, do all that fun stuff, and we will see. But remember, we have to be 1.0. We cannot be Duke Nukem forever. We do not want to be Duke Nukem forever. We want to have a complete release project. But always keep the dream of Bananazilla alive. And maybe just like that baseball field with Kevin Costner, they will kill him. You build it and they will kill him.
I don't want to talk about Iowa. Hi, Iron Vines.
Hello. I would have two questions if that's fine.
Yeah.
The first is, do you guys plan on making like a more fluid / realistic respawn for co-op? Because I feel like the timer can be a bit disruptive for Immersion.
That's a really good point. As of right now, we're working on the respawn system that Trey talked about a little bit earlier. When it comes to I think every decision needs to have some kind of let's call it a lore element, explaining why something exists. And yeah, I think a countdown is both. There's a game quality to it, which means that you're alone, your team is dead, you have to survive, and then they can come back. That might be where gameplay outweighs lore, but I think we owe it to have some kind of reason as to why a timer is being used. So I can say that we'll have a way of addressing it, but in terms of a mechanic, it might be necessary for some of those, for the 4-player co-op games. Yeah, but I can definitely say that we will get some kind of a narrative or lore reason why that's happening.
I see. That's good to hear. My other question would be about an inventory system. Do you guys plan on implementing anything like that, like mags and caliber and bullet calibers and so on?
Yeah, there's talk about it right now on how to expand the equipment element of what's going on currently in the game to allow. I mean, equipment that goes beyond like a flashlight, for example, right? Like,
Yeah.
we are trying to figure that out right now. Yes.
Hmm.
Were those the two questions?
Thank you for hearing me out.
Yeah.
Of course.
Isaac, I don't know. You kind of bugged out for a sec there. So,
Can you hear me now?
oh,
yeah.
yes, I can hear you now.
All right, fantastic. Next, we have Axmill. Thank you for joining us. What is your question?
Hi, hello. Can you hear me? Does this work?
Yes.
Thank you for letting me hear. My question was, would you guys, is there plan to add like a location where the location itself is like anomalous, like space-time isn't like shifting and whatnot, if that makes sense?
Could you give me an example of something that you? Yeah.
Like the first thought that comes to my mind is like the mole rats FTF, for example, like something where you would have to send them in for something. Like it's very hard to explain.
So do you mean like I think I have an idea of what you're saying? Is it like basically in Half-Life where you go to the alien dimension Zen, something a little bit more esoteric when you're not in like a laboratory environment and you're in a more esoteric
kinda
black
like
hole?
that. Yeah, kind of like that, where things just doesn't make sense. Like the whole place itself is an anomaly. You kind of just have to reverse it.
I think one of the strengths of let's see. So I think that so you start the game off. I mean, again, like this is some ways off, but you obviously start the game outside of Area 12, and as you go up against anomalies, obviously that's weird, right? Like a monster is inherently weird. Something that doesn't have any skin and wants to eat you, like that doesn't exist. That's weird. That is a reality bend right there. But I think the natural progression of the game, as you descend, sorry about that, as you descend into the, I mean, everybody should at least be kind of at least aware of what the original SCP-5K story is, right? Like the Foundation went crazy, right? And perhaps the only thing more disturbing as to the Foundation going crazy is to why it's going crazy, right? What we're dealing with is an anomalous event that has never happened before, in which the people who understand anomalies the most are using them as weapons on the rest of us, and assaulting this, the veil. So I think that it's a natural conclusion that it can't just end with shooting weird monsters, or we in another way, like weird animals, right? It has to do more than that. And I think that the next, in the roadmap to come, I think that the only way to make an anomalous experience like fighting monsters more crazy is to suddenly break into all different types of anomalous locations and deal with anomalous objects, because otherwise then you're just shooting aliens or shooting rabid animals. There's a threshold on that, so you have to push it just a little bit more. And I think that we've done it with 173 B, in that there's when I first played the game, there was nothing more unsettling than, one, it's a statue, but when I walk around it, the eyes are kind of following me, right? That doesn't make any sense. And when you go up against the screen anomaly, you're looking at screens that are going to explode your head, and it kind of drags your ability to control your character, which is an extension of yourself. It's messing with that. And from talking with our team, a lot of that is being dialed up, but the core elements of the game have to work before we can start then breaking them, right? And there are no limits of different types of anomalies that are currently in Area 12 and a fundamental part of our narrative that do warp reality and do offer things that you're talking about. I mean, I wish we could fit an IKEA inside of Area 12. That might be too much of an ask, but
Bonus level, hidden
But-
level, the infinite IKEA.
But there are infinite hallways and stairways and alternate realities that have a tendency of being parasitic or intrusive on this thing that we call the mundane. And I think that there are plenty of opportunities that will fulfill that necessary part of pushing the envelope past just shooting a monster.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer you? Well, before we adjust it, I was being very polite, but I have to dial up the enthusiasm. We have a $10 super chat from Meep Meep. Oh my God! Thank you. Bam, 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 bam. You are funding Affray. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for your appreciation. Thank you for coming out for the sales. Meep Meep for $10. And you want to know what's even crazier? Meep Meep super chatted another $10. Oh my God. Yeah. So what did Meep Meep say? He said, have some money, but thoughts on including environments in the future, each as Unludden or Ganzir? And I have horrible spending habits, so no problem, lol. Smiley face indeed.
I don't think I've ever experienced whatever just happened. But thank you. And thank you, Axmel. Cool. Thank you, Axmel. I'll I've never. I think I might just be too old to understand what just happened.
All right, so I will break it down to you. Oh my God, we haven't started again. $2 from Zippity Nut Bunny. Will you ever explore the story of Pietro Wilson? Will Pietro Wilson make it to 5K? What will happen? You have it here. You have Boman Modine, one of the highest authorities of Affray. He can't confirm. Will Pietro Wilson make it?
Okay. I think I understand what's happening. So it's SCP-5K, right? And for the people that know what SCP-5K is, it's primarily the story of Pietro Wilson inside of a suit, right? And as I've been corrected many times by our writers, it is not a time traveling suit; it's a time reset. Which I now know the difference between the two. I would say that in all realities, there's probably a version of Pietro Wilson, or I should say, all versions of time. There is a guy named Pietro Wilson. What happens to Pietro Wilson and what happens as a result of that initial 5K story event, we are inspired from the implications of what a time reset means. And in an anomalous world, the reactions of the people inside of, let's call it the Affray interpretation of events, is aware of what happened during Tanhoni's original story. So I'm not going to rule out that Pietro is somewhere in our world. I am going to be cautious about what happened to him, though. I hope that answers the question of. We're also on YouTube, I guess, huh?
Yep. I restreamed on YouTube. So basically, super chats is it? Yeah, you understand how it works.
I get it. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, look.
Before we move on,
at the end. Oh, yeah. No. Yeah, no, please.
I was just going to say, what are your just to get back to Meep Meep's original question? Are there environments like Unlondon and Ganzir?
Okay, so there. I think it's very important to understand that there is our story, SCP-5K, right? Affray, is taking an amalgamation of different stories, and then adding another thread that is our own, and creating something that no one's seen yet, and that nobody knows what that is, because we do, and we haven't released it yet. That will be the joy in having our game come out. Then there's the story SCP-5000, which is the story by Tanhony, and Tanhony is a good friend of ours, and somebody who has given us his blessing in terms of being inspired by it. Now, everybody knows that's not that's not something that is needed when doing stuff in the SCP universe, but all of the stories that we've brought in, and all of the things that we're working with are all done to the best of our ability by reaching out to the original authors and to the wiki administration itself, and making sure that we're doing good by them. But we are a different story, and we are a different we're a different series of events. And that is something that part of the discovery process, part of that pillar of investigation, that is something that you will get to be able to engage with. And to the people that really want to sit there and read through mountains of bureaucratic paperwork to figure out what happened, I guarantee you will enjoy that process of seeing what happened. But it is a different story. At the end of the day, ours is not a retelling. Ours is inspired from and as a result of that original story.
Well, thank you for that great. I hope Meep Meep that gave you $10. Satisfies that itch. Next, we
Thank you,
Zeev,
Meep.
you've been very patient. So now your patience shall be rewarded.
Hello.
Hi, Zeev.
Hey, thank you for coming on this wonderful Friday evening. What questions do you have for Mr. Boman Modine?
I have two questions. One of them is, will we have SCPs that have more complicated interactions with the player? For example, in a game called Content Warning, there's an enemy in there where they'll pick you up and then throw you at your friend. Will we see any SCPs that do something like that?
What was the name of that game?
Content Warning.
Content Warning?
Have you heard of it? It's kind of like that game, Lethal Company, only it's a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like one of those social horror games that's kind of supposed to be more funny than scary.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely take a look. I think that more opportunities to be able to God, there's such a like Hollywood term, or it's not even Hollywood term. It's like a PR term of like disrupting expectations. I hate to actually say it, but here I am saying it, right? There's a really, when I get to talk to Albie and the team about execution, right? The execution of these ideas, right? The inspiration that has kind of been born out of being gamers themselves, playing games like Fear, but also, what is it? God, there's the one that I've just forgotten, Metal Gear Solid, right? Like elements. You don't want it to be too much of a gimmick, right? But elements that can have an effect on how you play the game and kind of break the fourth wall are all really. I'll share something. So because I'm more on the cinematic side, right? Like that's where I'm at home, right? And presentation. I love Easter eggs. I love like putting stuff in that maybe one person in 5 years is going to find it and be like, "Oh, I know what that is," and that my cup runneth over. But there's a great moment where I felt really connected to, which is in the last cinematic trailer, when the guy gets up and he picks up a gun and he continues down the hallway, and the camera rotates over, and you look down the hallway and you see 173B standing there, right? There's a moment, a decision where it's like, well, I'm the camera, right? I'm the observer. I'm not a character in this trailer. I'm not a character in the game. I'm watching somebody else moving. Shouldn't 173 just be moving behind? Shouldn't I be watching 173 move from behind and break this guy's neck that I just saw walk by? Or am I also an observer? And I count in the rules of the SCP universe, me observing 173B stops him from moving because I'm witness to him, right? And that's the rules of the universe. There are countless of opportunities like this that are unique to unique to SCP that I think that we've only just been capitalizing on as we get through this kind of major development phase and start moving into refinement on a lot of stuff. So I think that there are more things that could kind of I'm gonna use the executive term of easily be done, whether or not that's true. But I think that there are countless opportunities of being able to push past into that breaking of the fourth wall, where you, the gamer, the person at your computer, and maybe one day at your console, that it actually directly affects your ability to do something. For example, there could be something that discombobulates you or hypnotizes you, and all of a sudden the controls are reversed. Little things like that, as long as it's not too gimmicky and doesn't break from that core column, which is a tactical gunplay game, then it serves a purpose, and then it causes somebody to have to be better at a game that, when it comes to Call of Duty, none of that stuff, and I bring up Call of Duty because I used to play it all the time. But if you threw any of that stuff like more complicated than a flashbang at me, I might just throw the controller away. It's not that type of experience. But for a game like this, a horror tactical shooter, it's perfect because the fear and discomfort that you feel as you go up against something that shouldn't exist should be more complicated than pointing and shooting, in my opinion. Also,
Yeah,
is your text is your image a Unreal texture of corn?
No, it is the almighty Corb, corn on the orb.
Cool. You had one more question. Sorry.
Yeah. This kind of goes into the last question, but will we get any more SCPs similar to the environmental SCPs, similar to like the door squid, where their mere presence changes how the players react to certain areas?
Right now, it is within the scope of the game to have more environmental elements.
One more question, if you'll have me.
Yeah, no problem.
In chapter 1, there are these pneumatic doors. They have levers on them that says break glass in case of emergency. Will we ever be able to pull those to open the doors?
What would they do?
Well, I'd imagine that they open the door in case of an emergency.
But it's during a potentially like a Keter level lockdown. That's an interesting, Zeev, that is an interesting question, and I will bring that back. In fact, I'll just write that down because that's an interesting.
Because normally with doors like that, when you pull the lever, it releases all the gas in them, keeping them closed.
Right.
Anyways, that's all I had.
Well, thank you for.
That's a great question.
Thank you for those questions, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
I have time for one more question.
Okay. Because Meep in the time while we were, I was about to ask if you need to wrap up soon, but all right, two things. Everyone, I have a special surprise for you. You'd think like, oh my God, I'm so disappointed. This was such a fun time. Well, you know what? The festivities are not over. Guess what? Secret movie night. Yeah, that's right. while we were getting ready for this, I prepped a whole movie night, patch 0.14 movie night that we will be kickstarting as soon as this event is over. You can come over to the events and kick it back and watch some specially selected movie. The theme for tonight is Ice and Ivy. To go along with the plants and the ice, we will be showing 2 movies that are themed around ice horror and plant horror. Really great selections. Can't wait for you to see them. Hope you join me in the events tab. So, oh my God, thank you, Social. Social, you were so fantastic. You created a whole night of entertainment for me on this wonderful Memorial Day Friday, assuming you're in the United States. But in the time we had that last person, we had Meep Meep, who paid $10. Another question, feel free to ignore. Do you have plans to include other GOIs, such as the MC&D, the Chaos Insurgency, or more recent GOI Pentagram, which is the occult branch of defense? And he also paid $5 to thoughts on including difficult concepts such as pataphysics, which act as meta-anomalies, which we are aware of. They are fictional constructs in a game. And Panther, a longtime super chatter, gave us $4.99, but didn't say anything. He just gave us $4.99. So thank you, Panther. You guys are keeping the dream of SCP Bananazilla alive. So thank you for your generous contributions to this evening.
So just so I'm clear, Isaac, is there some kind of, just so I know as the CEO, is there like a ceiling that if people give enough money, we burst through and we have to do, what'd you call it?
Bananazilla? I think the cap for the most amount of...
Bananazilla? I just need to know, like...
I don't know. If someone donates $500, I will run around and I will do a parrot dance and I will dance with the dog. I don't know if that'll fund Bananazilla, but you can ask Boman to put a Bananazilla fund in the Affray accounts. Maybe he could put it aside for that. But I wouldn't expect anyone to give $500. That's incredibly obscene and unreasonable. But I will be obscene if that happens. But thank you so much for Meep Meep and Panther for your wonderful contributions.
Thank you, Meep Meep. So the question was, that will we get into more organizations? So if you know what, I guess the short answer is yes. There is no reason with the degree of SCP expansion over time. There should be as many organizations attempting to stop the Foundation as there are in the canon. So yes. I think that we're starting with the GOC, and we will likely have more elements in the future because it is supposed to be a coalitionary anti-Foundation alliance, and I have a lot of thoughts about that as more of the, let's just call it more of the Affray lore and our interpretation of things that kind of already exist. So. Okay, I do want to give the last question though to somebody who was in this chat, just because I feel like that's these are the people I've been looking at with their hands patiently raised. Is Sir Balderdash? Maybe tell you what. Anybody that has a question for me, please just you can just message me directly. I'll make that invitation. Soloer, you were up here, and I don't know if McCain.
Well, do you want to do Silenced Inferno?
Been here.
I feel like
Soloer
has asked a question before, so I feel like if we're gonna do one final question, it should be someone who has not been up here. So I don't think Nova or Silenced Inferno has asked, and I don't know if McCain has either.
Okay, so let's do McCain then, because I just saw Silence Inferno. Maybe he stepped out, or they stepped out. Excuse me.
I'm here.
Oh no, you're here. Sorry, disappeared. Please, Silence Inferno.
Okay, so on the investigative aspect of the game, because we're playing as the UIU, obviously, right?
Right. For now.
For now, right? In the past, I think there was talk about being able to access the computers at the site, potentially.
Right.
Is that... Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I am stepping up because I have been sitting for 2 hours and my legs have now fallen asleep. So please, just I'm just here. A way to access the computers.
Like looking for files, stuff like that. Anyways, go ahead.
Yes. So there's an element that has to, again, it comes down to balance, right? we want to create the environment where it's the player's choice, and that kind of informs every element moving forward in terms of the overall execution of the game. We don't want to make too many instances where you're going, it forces somebody to do something that's beyond, like, let's say, the primary pillar, right? Which is a tactical shooter. So, but that also allows us to make a much more robust investigative experience, which is looking for files, looking for clues, picking up on the narratives that exist inside of Area 12. I really want people to know, be wondering about what, like, if you guys were present during last October, we had a pumpkin carving contest. That is a canonical event in Area 12. We want to have threads like that then open up opportunities for audio files and that showcase the relationships between the people that live and work at Area 12 before whatever it is that happened. So that element, though, instead of it being something you have to engage with, which might stop a player that is more responding to that primary pillar, it being a choice allows it to actually be much more robust and much more engaging rather than something that's a hurdle, right? So yes, I don't know. I don't know if it will be something as complex as every computer terminal. I remember when that was a conversation that was happening. But I do think it will be an opportunity to be something like that.
So more so for like lore seekers, kind of ish.
Yeah,
Looking more
yeah,
into the.
yeah. I definitely for it'll be interesting to see, and this is another thing that we just have to test. As we become better at pairing different types of players together, there will inevitably come the dichotomy in the population of people playing SCP-5K that they're the people that want the lore and want to sit and read the lore, and then there'll be the people, perhaps like myself, that want to charge the machine gun turret, in order to get out whatever post-work stress is still in my system. Like, there's going to be the division between those two groups. And so what we have to figure out is how to find the balance between those two experiences. And we have a couple ideas on how to do it, especially something that perhaps is even more immersive, which is finding things in the game which then allow you to unlock things perhaps in a second or third party experience from the game, that lets you read everything in your own, kind of in your own time, rather than slow down squad progression or something like that. So hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Cool. Why don't we? Yeah, McCain, you were next, and then we'll do Nova, and maybe I'll end with Nova, if that's okay.
Yep, I think that sounds very judicious.
Hello?
Cool. Hi, McCain.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I would like to ask a question. Like in Doom Eternal, there were some fights in actual cities, right? When we kill the demons. Will there be a mission like that in SCP-5K? Like blocking the SCP-6 and symbols from spreading around the city?
So originally, the scope of the game was to incorporate everything that the, let's just loosely call it the Omnicide, throws at the planet, right? And so there's a lot of desire for those events to happen, and I think this answers a couple questions that we've gotten today. Where are the battles of the Omnicide, right? I think, and I hope not to repeat myself like this, but the events of SCP-5K are intrinsically designed to with the initial moves of the Omnicide. The Omnicide has not happened yet. That's one of the reasons why some of our opening some of the videos that you've seen associated with Affray are much more broad stroke. The UN Council meeting, for example, being outside of the facility in one of our cinematics, out in the Antarctica with people communicating back and forth that they're not sure why the Foundation has gone dark, or that the O5 Council has not been responding to the governments of the planet. That growing sense of unease, we are in the grips of in this game in finding out why. And if we can answer why, then that unlocks all of those larger, more let's call it, the more epic moments, right? Which is then tied to a more cinematic field, which is, I think, what you're talking about, McCain. Once we can accomplish that, then we can build off of that, and that's one of the main reasons why we even have DLCs as an offer, is so that we can expand into those experiences.
So hope that answers the kind of question.
Yeah, all right.
And,
I guess that was it. Yeah. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, McCain. Yeah.
Thank you for coming to
see
the
you around.
stage, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And then I think you want to do Nova.
Yeah, and Zippy Nut Bunny, if you'd like to message me, I please invite you to do so, or you can post it in the general, and I can address it. But Nova, please.
Hey, yes, hello. So, my initial question was going to be long form. However, since you're out of time, I understand. So I'm going to go to my second question, which is very short. And I also like to recommend a short film for future movie nights, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. What's the movie?
Okay, so the movie in question, or short film per se, is 096. It's a SCP fan film. The creator is Mr. Clay. He has a YouTube channel. I can link it if you want. And
Absolutely.
yeah. So besides that, I have a short question. So on the Steam page, so there's this game called Incursion Red River. And underneath it, I noticed your guys' game, SCP-5K, is also bundled with their game. So I'm just like questioning, like, how come I never heard this from your guys' social media?
I'm pretty sure I posted that pretty aggressively. I posted up on all our channels. Hey, we got an awesome bundle with Incursion Red River. Check it out, 10% off.
Oh, okay. I probably not got.
I can't guarantee everything I post on social will reach your feed. I mean, I hope it does. Like, we're all slaves to the algorithm, and the algorithm doesn't necessarily permit that every piece of content is. But that's why you got to check the Affray socials every day.
All right.
But we there's some crossover on the talent side of things. We have a couple team members that have actually worked on that game as well. So we're very much supportive of them, and that goes back to kind of what I was saying earlier on, which is that we are in contact with a lot of other indie development teams making their own games, and our hope is to be able to be a resource for them, just as they're a resource for us. And so when sales come up and stuff like that, we can help each other. That doesn't mean though that we're part of like Incursion Red River is not like a part of Affray's SCP-5K. So, but from a friendly perspective, we're brother and sister companies.
Okay, so you're more like marketing each other's game, right? So it's not like it's
Yes.
like a literal crossover, so where you actually like combine each other's content.
Right, exactly. And maybe, who knows? The good news is that if there is an opportunity for something, maybe there will be, see, I love Easter eggs, right? Like maybe there'll be something that ends up happening where there will be a document that says, actually, there probably will be now because it's in my brain, but like there was something called Incursion Red River that happened in the SCP-5K universe, and maybe vice versa. So. But yeah, it's two companies trying to help each other out by spreading the word.
Okay, so that's all my questions for now. But for my long form question, do you mind if I directly message you about it so that you could get to it whenever I have time?
Yeah, absolutely. I welcome it.
All right, thank you very much. And I'll be posting the YouTube channel with the short film in the chat or general chat as well.
Yeah, maybe
Awesome.
I'll see if I can pull off another thing like I did with the anti-memetics division. Maybe we could build a movie night around it and see if Mr. Clay might want to do a behind the scenes. Something like that would be fantastic. I love collaborating with people like that. So thank you for coming, Nova, and let me move you back to the audience. All right, so I think now it's time to wrap things up for you, right, Boman?
Yes, thank you. I really just wanted to take a moment and appreciate everybody for coming, asking your questions. I 100% want to make it known that if you do, the more that the more that you can communicate with our team and people, especially like Isaac, the faster that we become aware of things. Technical side, that's on the experience side, that's on the community side. And I just, on behalf of everybody at Affray, I just, we literally, in the most literal sense possible, we would not be able to make what we're making without your support and without your interaction. And that's why we hope to do more of these. I don't know who's next, Isaac, on your list.
Right now, well, here, you want to do whatchamacallit, veto something or give me a green light? Originally, I had Sterling, but Sterling has to unfortunately, he's got school, so he's put off again. But I talked with Aaron, and we had a really fun idea of doing like a Bug Hunters Q&A, where he and the other members of the Q&A team would show them playing the game, kind of showing how they find bugs and identify them, and doing a session for that next Friday, potentially. Can I do that? Yeah, Bug Night is on next Friday, 5 o'clock. I will let Aaron know and the rest of the QA team that they are good to go. Get ready. Get your proton packs. Get your pulse rifles ready, because we will be sicking these bug hunters on the roughest realms of Area 12 to find the most insidious, game-breaking bugs. Let's see their process. Let's see if you can help them out. We've heard that there are bugs. We have worked to hotfix those bugs. There are probably more bugs. There will always be bugs. It is a never-ending job. But now you will be able to see the people in the process. So look forward to that next Friday. I know you had a lot of fun when Aaron was using his vocal talents to bring forth Arthur Morgan. Maybe Arthur Morgan will become a bug hunter. Who knows what other personalities he has with his wide-ranging vocal talents, but you will find out next Friday. So I will be posting that in the socials. And of course, always look for the Affray socials all the time. Check them. We're always posting stuff. I cannot guarantee the algorithm will put it in your feed. Never trust the algorithm. Always look it out on your own time. And of course, check the announcements. And before I lend things off to Boman to have his final words, remember, we have an event going on right now, a movie night in the events. So I want to see all 25 of you here. I want to see everyone on YouTube there to sit down and watch some movies.
Thank you, Isaac. And thank you, everybody. I hope you have an enjoyable movie night. And enjoy the long weekend.
Yep. Have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Always a pleasure to have these events. And thank you for coming.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, everyone. Movie night is about to begin. Let me move over to my laptop where I have everything queued up, and I will see you over there.